Thank you for purchasing this teaching. You are listening to Michelle Seidler. To hear more teachings, as well as learning more about the School of the Seers, visit our website at www.schooloftheseers.com. We hope you enjoy this teaching. Disc 1.
Yeah, thank you. And I encourage you guys, like, if you have paper, I'm kind of like, not a linear sort of teacher. So, always my prayer is that, like, to be fed well by him and that everyone just eats from him, whatever it is. Even though we're coming in a certain topic, he knows where each person is. And so my prayer is just that he would just give that. And so I don't function well just trying to. I have notes, but so just I encourage you, whatever you hear, just from him, just write it down, So I want to also encourage you, like, to put away what you think honor is. You know what I mean? Like, even any of your understanding about it or what you think it is, just kind of put it aside for a minute. Come, like, I don't know. Come, poor in spirit. Poor in spirit is like, I don't know. The minute we think we know something, we've just shut up being able to receive anything. So the best posture always to come in is that I don't know and I'm in desperate need. Then you've just made yourself available to hear and to receive. So I just encourage you, just come like, I have no idea. I don't have any idea. But we want to know. And I'll share this too. When I was here on worship night, part of what I saw was as you guys as a community, as you're advancing forward, well, let me share this first. We are growing and advancing as a bride without spot or blemish, right? At the return of Jesus, we corporately will be a bride equally yoked. I mean, we are already in him, but obviously the manifestation of that hasn't happened yet, right? And that bride is full of love. I mean, I had this encounter in Ukraine a couple years ago. I was in a church and I was in the back. I didn't know what I was going to speak on. And I'm like, Lord, what are you saying? And I went into this full-blown encounter where I saw us corporately at the return of Jesus, the bride, the church. And she didn't just walk in love, she was love. And it was so powerful. There was a warlikeness to it. It's like nothing can stand. No darkness, no evil, no plan of the enemy can stand in love. It is a violent force. It's advancing. You know what I mean? Like, it's not passive. It's very warlike. And I was like, wow, she doesn't just love, she is love. And I was just overcome. And then he brought me back to present day and where we were. And I saw how one of the tactics of the enemy it was actually an inside job. It wasn't our concern wasn't the world. Our concern was the church. It was our brothers and sisters. It was our own body. And how and this, I'm not saying you guys are doing this, but I'm just sharing this story. How we bite and devour one another. How we hold even judgments, even not with our words, but it's even our heart posture towards one another. It's about how we see each other. That the enemy was able to come in and divide and separate. And it was this self-hatred, actually, because we know we're one body. We're not separate. We're one body, right? We're different members of one body. And there was this self-hatred, which really, at the end of the day, that's what it is. And there was these judgments and these opinions about each other, which the enemy could just come in and it kept us from moving into that powerful place of bringing the kingdom. And that was his strategy. And I was just like, oh, I mean, it changed me that day. It set something different in me. It changed my perspective about his strategy and what he wanted to do. Because we're here to bring the kingdom. And we want to be strong in him. And so honor is a piece of that. And what I'm going to share about it isn't the full picture of what honor is. You know, I would never claim that. This is just a small piece of what it is. And when we think of honor, we think of like, you know, bestowing something or giving recognition to somebody who's accomplished something, right? That's typically when we think, I'm going to honor somebody, I'm going to call them up and I'm going to say nice things about them and I'm going to recognize them for something they've achieved, right? Wouldn't you say that's kind of our understanding of what honor is? But, and that's not untrue, but there's a whole other piece to it that I want to kind of talk about. And write this quote down. This is something that my team used to just tease me about it, but it's a great picture to kind of explain where I'm going with this. That honor is the car that love drives in to get where it's going. Honor is the car that love drives in to get where it's going. So honor is a vehicle for love. One of the vehicles for love. It's an expression of love. And the kingdom is built by love. And there's many expressions of it. But the kingdom coming forward on the earth is only through love. Follow me. In there with me. It's the only way. The only way. And we hinder the kingdom coming forward by not functioning in love. Love is like the tuning fork of heaven. It attracts, it pulls heaven down. Tuning fork. It's a force, a pulling force, a gravity force to birth something. And, I was going to share these 3 different parts, but I'm going to just kind of go with this. When we build the kingdom, or when we think about bringing the kingdom, sometimes it's just like, okay, who am I? What am I doing? What is God saying? But it's much bigger than that. It's much wider than that. Here's one way that I can function in honor in my relationships with people. And I actually want to do something with you guys later on related to this. But, and again, this is a way we build the kingdom. It's the way we bring the kingdom in relationships. With those around me, one thing, regard no one according to the flesh. There's 2 perspectives we can come from. One builds something in the natural, one builds something in the kingdom. When I regard you according to what I see in the natural, when I regard you according to the flesh, I am not able to build. So you regard no man according to his weakness or according to his sin. This is the way he sees. This is the way he does things. This is the way he looks at things. He does not regard you according to your weakness or your sin. Right? To the pure, all things are pure. To the defiled and unbelieving, nothing is pure. He's pure. His eyes are pure. He does not regard you according. We see this all through the Gospels. I mean, it's amazing the way that Jesus did this. I was thinking about this actually last night. You think of Peter, for example. And what would it look like in modern day times for someone to deny Jesus? Think of this, your team, right? And there's someone on your team. What would we really do? Like, what does a church do these days? If someone on your team denies Jesus, and I'm not just saying, oh, he doesn't exist, or, but like walking that out. I mean, they don't tell us the whole story. I mean, who knows what Peter went and did? But he denied Jesus. What would it look like for someone on your team to go off and just go into sin? Just deny Jesus altogether. But what is it? What is the process? We have these processes that we want to put people through to restore them, right? But here comes Peter. What does Jesus do? He doesn't even regard it. He actually knew it was going to happen before it happened and said, I prayed that your faith would not fail. And that when you're restored, you would return and strengthen your brother. I mean, do you see how he sees things? He's not afraid of weakness. He's not intimidated by our weakness. He knows what's there, but he doesn't regard it. It's not his focus. He completely says to Peter in John 21, he sees him again. This is the first time Peter sees him. And he says, do you love me? Yes, Lord, I love you. Feed my sheep. He totally does not even talk about it with him. He's focused on who this man is. He does this over and over and over. It's like he doesn't give attention. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean we completely ignore where people are at. Obviously, there has to be conversations, confrontation, but it's about a perspective. It's about a focus. It's about what we focus on. Like here, you guys really have this adoration key down, which really helps you to focus on what's good and true and right and noble and pure and praiseworthy, right? Which is him. But when you see everything through his eyes, when you lock in on that adoration piece and your eyes are just focused on him, you're looking through him and what he sees, everything else is so small. So when I regard no man according to the flesh, I'm regarding them according to who they really are. What he says about who they are. That's what I focus on. That's what I draw out of people. That's what I regard. And now I'm talking about honor. So that's how I see you. Because listen, whatever you regard in people, you're going to pull forward. We all need to be reminded of who we are. That's part of the body. And listen, this is warfare. This is warfare. When I can look at someone and I have two ways of looking at them. Am I looking at them according to the flesh? How the enemy, because the enemy is always accusing us. The enemy is always saying something to us. God is always saying something to us. There's those two voices always. And the enemy is always regarding us according to the flesh, our sin and our weakness. That's how he sees things. So in relationships, which one are we tuned into? It's not hard to hear what the enemy is saying about people. A lot of people, they're walking in that in some regard in the reality of what the enemy is saying about them. They're wrestling with it. But we don't realize we come along and we're kind of like just agreeing with the enemy. And even if we're not verbally saying it, it's powerful even in our perspectives about people because we relate to people that way. I'm not going to ask somebody to do something because they battle with that. Jesus did the complete opposite. He put people in places and positions and asked them to do things way before they were ready according to the flesh. And it was actually what brought people forward. Because he reminded them of who they were. He calls us forward according to the truth, not our behavior. Now, does he deal with behavior? Yes, but do you guys follow me? It's not his focus. He doesn't deal with us according to our behavior. He's focused on who we are and he brings that forward. So how do you view, what is your opinion? How do you regard people around you? How do you see the people around you? And even yourself. Because honestly, it has to start with you. How do you see yourself? What are you listening to? Which one are you listening to? Are you listening to the enemy go, pointing at, this is where you messed up. This is your failure. This is who you are. You'll never, you guys know the voice. And we just kind of go, yeah. So we view things according to circumstances, according to our behavior, according to actions. And so we agree, right? This is a lie. This is how he gets in, the enemy gets in and wants to advance his kingdom, his purposes, his plans. We believe lies about ourselves, and then we believe lies about each other. And a lot of times, obviously we don't do that on purpose. We just kind of go throughout the day, and we kind of sometimes our minds can just be garbage dumps. Or we don't guard the gate, so to speak. We just let things come in and out, and we're affected by it. And we're not even aware of what's coming in and out, And then we wonder by the end of the day sometimes why we feel like crap, or why we just are like, I don't want to be around that person, or you know what I mean? We're not aware. But we are the gatekeepers of our temple, right? And so when you can recognize those things, you want to be so, aware and sensitive to the voice of Holy Spirit and be in agreement with him. This is powerful. So when here's a great thing that you can do with those people around you. Ask these questions. Have this in your heart. Who are they? Who are they? God, what do you say? And I know you guys do this, but it's not just a one-time moment thing where I can just say it over you so that you know what God's saying about you and so that you feel encouraged. Take those things about the people around you into yourself. See, and agree and build with him. Build people with him. Build the kingdom with him through the people around you. What are their gifts? Here's a great example. Let's say you're, in a ministry time with a group of you. This is a great example, a great way to practice it. I don't know how often you guys do these things, but when you can come into a room and you know people's giftings, you know the grace on their life, because we need each other. Like not one person can do it. He created us to be interdependent for the fullness of his spirit to come. We need each other. And I've shared this before. If there is someone that comes into your community or your group, it's because there's something they need, but there's something that you need, even in your own personal life. It's never about one person. God is, he's never one-dimensional. We need each other. I need the grace of God on your life. You need the grace of God on my life. You understand? And when I can recognize and know you by the Spirit, who God says you are, what is the grace on your life? What is the gifting on your life? And I make room for that. I acknowledge that and I make way for it. That is honor. And you're honoring God. You're not just honoring a person, but you're honoring God, because me honoring the grace of God on your life is me honoring him. It's him. So I make room for him. In a community, when you can do this in a group and in a community, you will see the movement of Holy Spirit so much more. Why? Because you're making room for him. You're acknowledging him. But if you're in a group or you're in a community and you're regarding everyone according to their weakness or what they're not or their sin, and I'm not saying you guys are doing this, I'm just making a point. When you're doing that, do you see how you shut up the kingdom? You shut out God, and you can't build that way. The kingdom will not come forward that way. It doesn't function that way. It functions through love. And so when we're building the kingdom, we have to have a different perspective. We can't view things according to what we see in the natural. It's a different realm, right? So if I view things according to this realm and I try to build by what I see here, but you're like, God, come, I want to build this. I mean, it's called frustration. It won't work. You see people going in circles, or just they feel stuck, or they're like, what's going on? Or they have repeated patterns of things. And they're like, something's wrong, but I don't know what it is. Usually it's within the group of people. And somewhere he's being kind of shut out, and obviously not intentionally. But when you can begin, to recognize, even in prayer times, for example, even as a leader, everyone in this room is a leader, right? I mean, in some capacity or another, whether you're a husband, a wife, a parent, whatever it is, there's leadership on your life. My perspective anyway, is as a leader, my job is to facilitate Holy Spirit. I recognize, how are you moving? It doesn't mean you're just moving on me. What are you doing? What are you doing right now, Lord? And I'm aware of who people are, the gifting and the grace. What do you need right now? What is needed right now? And who are the people? Where is the grace? Where's the gifting? And then you make room for him. You guys you follow me? And so that's one aspect of it, of how I can honor him by honoring you. And every person is worthy of honor. Why? We're made in his image. We honor all men because we're made in the image of God. It's like when I'm loving you, I'm loving him. When I'm serving you, I'm serving him. When Jesus gave the parable, when you visited me when you visited the man in prison, you visited me. Right? When you gave that cup of cold water, you gave it to me. And this is how we see fullness come forward. This is how we see the kingdom birthed and come forward. It is so necessary, not just for those around us, but for yourself. Here's a really cool perspective. Do you know that when you honor those people around you and you honor the grace and gifting on their life, you're actually posturing yourself to receive what's on them? Honor is a posture of receiving. It actually postures you to drink, to receive. What is it? Matthew 10:41. And I know we've all heard this. When you honor a prophet, you receive a prophet's reward. When you honor a righteous man, you receive a righteous man's reward, right? When you honor the gift and the grace on other people's lives, you have just postured yourself to receive that grace that's on their life. When you honor those over you, it's just wisdom. When you honor the leaders over you, those who have went ahead of you, those who have paved a way in front of you, listen, this is why honor brings life and dishonor brings death. Right? Honor brings life, dishonor brings death. Because honor breeds growth. It breeds growth, life all around us. Dishonor brings shame. It shuts up the kingdom. So when I honor those who have went ahead of me, whether it's even someone I never even met in the natural, but you carry a posture of, I can't, it's so hard for me to be around people who, even the president, This is Romans 13. I mean, Paul was really clear about how we view and how we treat those in authority, right? It brings a curse on your life. It brings shame on you when you dishonor someone in leadership. I mean, we see this with David and Saul. David never, look at Saul. Saul was a crazy leader. God had rejected Saul, but David never dishonored him. Even in a position that, when Saul was at the pinnacle of his madness, chasing him, trying to kill him, and everyone around David was like, David had a promise to be king. He had that word on his life, and here was a perfect opportunity for him to step into that position. And everyone around him was like, take the opportunity. You're supposed to be king. Take him out. David had such a heart of honor. He's like, I will not touch the Lord's anointed. Like, what kind of perspective is that? But that was a test for him. We all have these tests of honor. And seeing from his perspective for us to advance into what we're called to. Always. This situation Jesus went through it. We all have that journey of where we can see something in the natural, but are we going to stay here in agreement with God? Are we going to honor, or are we going to take it? And David did it. That was a huge test for him to move forward into the purposes of God. He would not dishonor even a crazy madman. He called him the Lord's anointed. Hello. He refused to move into that. So, when you view your leaders, regarding your leaders, not even according to the flesh. Again, Romans 13, our presidents, those put over us, everyone is put in authority by one God, right? There is no authority on earth except it's been given by God. Crazy madman or not. God raised up Pharaoh, right? Nothing happens apart from him allowing it to happen. He's not like stressed out in heaven. Oh, that wasn't according to my plan. You know what I mean? Like he knows what he's doing. Without Pharaoh being in place, we wouldn't know that God was a deliverer. There's purpose. So when we can have that perspective with the leaders over us, just like David did with Saul, Pharaoh, hey, listen, there's an antichrist that's being raised up, and God's allowing it. It's not like he's stressed out over it. Oh my gosh, So I'm not saying, that doesn't mean that we agree with everything. When I honor a leader over me, I'm honoring God, because God puts those in authority. And when I do that, those that are over us, those that have went ahead of us, I'm actually posturing myself to receive the grace that they've paid for. That they've went ahead of us, dug the way ahead of us. And when I honor, I can actually receive what I didn't pay for. You guys follow me? I can receive that grace on there. Isn't that beautiful? Oh my gosh. That's love. That's what it looks like in the honor avenue of love, to be in that place. It's like everything is available in love. The whole kingdom is accessible in love. And again, honor is just one avenue, one expression of that, of where we receive the kingdom, and then we can actually give it, and we make room for it in other people's lives. How many of you know when somebody is just wrestling through something, and they're stuck in this idea of who they are, which isn't what God says about them, to have someone come along and remind you of the truth of who you are. We all need that, right? And it's not, and we all do that, But what would it look like for us to live in that continually and to make room for that continually in people's lives? And to not say, oh, you were just saved 3 months ago. You need to sit for a year. I mean, he didn't. I mean, do we ever think about these young 20-year-olds that Jesus called to change the world? These were like jacked up men. Right? I mean, they're fighting over who's the greatest. They're wanting to like kill people. Jesus, they're not following you. They're not doing it your way. Should we call down fire from heaven and just consume them? Yeah. He's like, you don't know what spirit you're of. But yet these are the ones he sent out. I mean, this is like upside down. We don't do things that way. We're like, let's put you through discipleship. Let's let you take 10 classes. Let's make sure you're totally clean and have no sin in your life, and then you'll be ready. It's not how he brings people forward. How many of us, I mean, we know this in our personal lives that we've experienced the grace and the mercy and his perspective over our lives. We've experienced it. How many of you have been in, like when you're just at your worst, he like comes and then will promote you or move you forward. I mean, it's happened to me. Oh, I'm like, this is like, God, hello. You got the wrong girl. How many of you felt like that? It's his way. It's what he does. That it's not according to you. It's not according to your righteousness. It's not according to your brain, your smarts, your ability, but it's according to his grace, his mercy, his power. He actually chooses, 1 Corinthians says this, God does not choose the wise, the smart, the noble, and the strong. Those are not the ones he chooses. He chooses the weak and despised things. I didn't say it. He said it. He chooses the weak and despised and messed up things. This is who he is. Why? So that it's not according to us, it's according to him. The ones that are weak and messed up, they know they can't take any glory for it. They don't get in the way. So what would it look like to begin to see that way with those around us? You pull people forward that way. What would it look like if you looked at yourself that way? How many of you have yourself sort of like on the sidelines until this or until that or until I get here, or until I clean up that mess? It's not what he does. Amen? I encourage you guys, with your husbands, with your wives, with your children. I think it's hard with your children because we're so geared towards behavior. We're so geared towards acknowledging things and people in their behavior. But what if you begin to look at them like, who are you? What's the grace? What's the gifting on your life? And then begin to put them in those positions, whether they're ready or not. How we see ready and how he see. Listen, because in him it's already done. Who you are in fullness is already done in him. It's already, you guys, you know this, right? The fullness is done in him. There's no like going to happen. In him, it's done. The manifestation here is an issue of us knowing that. We just don't believe it. We don't believe who we are. So he brings that manifestation by reminding us. I forgot who I was saying this to yesterday. I think it was Tony. I said, you know what the issue is? I don't believe there's any problems. So that word problems triggers me. Because I'm like, we don't have a problem. There are no problems on the planet. Now, that we have issues, but not problems. So I said to him, I said that the major issue on the planet, the root issue of everything in our personal lives, corporately in the earth, is one thing, and it's a remembering issue. Or it's an issue that we forget. That we're asleep is another way of putting it. We forgot who we are. We forgot who he is, and so therefore we forget who we are, so we act differently than who we really are. So then that equals certain behavior, right? But we regard things according to behavior, but everything is about remembering. Because again, in him, it's done. You are totally who he's called you to be. In him, the fullness of that is done. But when we go to from glory to glory to glory, from faith to faith to faith, it's always a remembering issue. Oh, which comes by revelation. Oh, whoa, that's who you are. Whoa, that's who I am, right? And it changes things because it's like we're kind of asleep. We fall asleep because we forget. That's why the enemy uses drugs. Drugs put us to sleep. They cause the dullness so we rock-a-bye baby. And then we forget what's really true. So we act differently, right? So it's this act of remember who he is. Remember who you are. Remember who the people are around you. And recognize that. Honor is recognizing a grace, a gift. Recognizing a grace on someone's life and making room for it is honor. It's you're remembering who someone is in him. And when we do this, we become strong corporately. There is no plan of hell. There is no demon. There's no devil that can stand against something like that. What would it look like to war for each other that way in a community? What if in a community nobody regarded anyone according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit? You just shut every door to hell when you do that. You really do, because that's how he gets in, and that's his strategy. And what if not only you did that here, but you made room for it when people aren't ready? It's messy, but either way, it's messy. But you know what? We want to control things so many times because messes make us uncomfortable. Even in your own personal life, in your own personal walk with God, messes make us so uncomfortable that we have to feel like things are controlled because we want to be certain of things. We don't realize how much we do that, how much we're afraid of the unknown, how much we're afraid of messes. Jesus was not afraid of messes. I mean, he made them. We're messy. People are messy. Do you see what I'm saying? It's a different way of building. So many times we look here and we want to control outcomes. It's a big passion of mine, this wisdom of men. It's so opposed to the wisdom of God. And that's, again, goes into the 1 Corinthians reality. The wisdom of men, again, it's a earthly perspective. Paul calls that perspective regarding the elementary principles of the earth. You're acting like mere men. And you're viewing things according to the principles of earth and what you can see with your natural mind. And it's like, no, remember who you are. You're a new creation in Christ. The wisdom of God is foolishness to men. His ways are foolish to the natural mind. The ways of the Spirit can't even be comprehended by the natural mind. It's opposed. They're opposed. So the wisdom of men always looks to build according to what I can see in the natural. How are you acting? How are you behaving? What's going on here? A plus B equals C. How many of you, I hated algebra. I didn't understand. Why does A plus B equal C? You know, it's just, it's what you see with your natural eyes. That's not who we are. You want to advance. You want to build the kingdom in each other and walk into the calling that God has for you. You have to stop looking at what you can see in the natural. You have to stop regarding people according to the natural. You want to get really happy? Do you want to have more joy? Let go. Let go. And begin to just love people and acknowledge and honor them for where they are. Let people be free. And let him come in. He is, I've been on this one for a while now. He is the spirit of freedom. He doesn't just give it. He is. When he's in a room, when he's present, there's freedom. He is. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. You're free to be a messy you. You're free to be who you are, junk and all. He didn't pick us because we had it together. He doesn't expect us. He knows our frame. He knows we are but dust. He's not expecting us to have it together. Why do we expect that from those around us? Why do we expect for people to not disappoint us? Why do we expect people to not hurt us? What would it look like to set people free? You're a mess, so am I. Hey, let's have a party. And let's go change the world in our messy selves. This honor. And it breeds life. It's so offensive to the mind that God would take a bunch of... Listen, we're a mess. We just can get to places where we don't think we are. Then we're really deceived. When we think we're there, we are worse off than how we started. But when you can that's why I always make a point. I can tell you so many different times. I make a point to be really open about my weakness to people. I think especially as leaders, we really have to do that. Because it sets those around us free. To think, oh, I remember a girl saying to me, "You watch TV?" I mean, that's kind of extreme. This was in a community where it was like hardcore, I was like, oh yeah, let me tell you what I watch. Because we even view holiness regarding to behavior. Woo. You see what I'm saying again? It's according to the natural. I always say that to the degree you're walking in love is to the degree you're walking in holiness. True consecration, true holiness is to the same degree that you know the love of God in your walk. That is holiness. Then your behavior will look a certain way. Holiness is the same thing as saying love. But yet, we regard it according to, it's just religion, regarding behavior. And so I treat you a certain way according to your behavior. And I could tell you face sometimes of people, whoa. But you got to help remind people that they're a mess. And that I'm a mess too, and I haven't arrived. None of us have. And he's okay with us there. Should we take a break? Yeah, let's just take a break. I have to go to the bathroom. That's the kind way of going. I have to go to the bathroom.
Or you can stay and be messy.